Welcome to Digimon.
Hello and welcome to Digimon, and welcome yet again to another Deck Profile Monday. If you are liking this content, please make sure to like, subscribe and ding that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our future content. Links in the description will be for our previous deck profiles and our matches as well. What deck are we looking at today? Well, there's one deck that I prevalently play as a meta kind of deck, and frankly, of all of my personal decks, it's probably the one that is the most meta at the moment, given the kind of the regional kind of success that it has had, and that is MirageGaogamon. And MirageGaogamon is a deck where, I'll be honest, because I'm British, it was quite hard to watch Data Squad slash Sabres in this country, so I never actually watched it. So the whole reason I got into Gaogamon as a deck was because I opened a butt ton of BT11 and pulled pretty much the entire deck at the time from those boxes. So I then decided I didn't have a blue deck. Let's just keep going all in. And turned out that was actually a really good idea. Gaogamon has gone from strength to strength. Recently has a little bit of a hit because of the limit to Bukamon, which was needed. But with the kind of one particular card from BT15 as well as some future cards along the way, this deck is really ripping it up. Like this is by far and away the most successful OTK deck that is currently going on, going through the meta at the moment. It's just a really cool deck, which does a lot of really just great things. It is one of those ones where it is kind of high risk, high reward, where if you don't OTK, you probably will just lose, but you just have to hope that you are going to get your pieces, you are going to OTK, and everything's going to go swimmingly. But yeah, let's get into the card by card. Now you will be noticing I have a very strange amount of eggs. I am running 2 eggs, and I am running 1 each of Bukamon because it's limited, and 1 Wanyamon. Now, why am I doing this? That's because we want to make sure that we've got at least 2 eggs, granted, but we've also want to make sure that we're shoring up our jamming and making sure that we're getting the jamming each time. So by having 50-50 chance of going into them, it's going to be a good time. And the fact is with this deck, you're pretty much just hiding in the raising area until you're ready to OTK anyway. So it really doesn't matter that much. So I have tried this. It does work. Genuinely, I would say give it a go. Wanyamon is great for that draw. It does help you with finding your pieces. So if I was going to up it, I'd maybe up it to 1 copy. But I'm very much enjoying this kind of coin toss kind of egg setup we've got at the moment. It's just funny, but those are our eggs there. Next, going into the rookies. We've got 4 copies of the Gaomon from BT11. This helps us with searching all of our kind of Galgatin names as well as our blue tamers. It does trash the rest because it has BT11 searcher syndrome where it's just weird. It does weird things, for no reason. Especially because there are other BT11 searches that don't do weird things, but this is one of the ones that does do weird things. It also does have an inheritable of, if you have a tamer in play, return one of your opponent's level 3 Digimon to its owner's hand, which can help you with triggering certain effects. So your unsuspends, your gaining memory, that sort of thing. It doesn't come up very often because of how much return to hand stuff we already have available to us, but the fact that this can search is already great, and that's its kind of main purpose, is to just be hard played out and do our searching for us to get that consistency. Next up, 3 copies of the EX4 Gaomon. He has an on play as well. It doesn't search, but he does kind of have the ability to kind of get you to draw a card, but also let your opponent draw a card from the top of their decks. Now, you might be thinking that's not really a great strategy, but actually for Gaogamon, we want them to have as many cards in their hand as possible. This deck really pops off against decks that search too much, and we punish them hard for that. It's a great little deck for that. And you've then got its inheritable. So you've got the when an effect adds a card to your opponent's hand, gain 1 memory. Really crucial memory gain there. Was absolutely deadly when you had that certified kind of jamming all the time, but now we kind of have to chop and change our jamming a little bit, and the way we do that is 3 copies of BT15 Betamon. Now, BT15 Betamon has an on-play. It's completely useless for us because it's basically an Aegistramon / Jumbo Gamemon thing. If played by an effect, one of your opponent's Digimon can't attack until the end of the turn, which is useful for those decks. We can't do that. The only reason Betamon is important to us is it has the inheritable of jamming. Just gives no strings attached like Bukamon did. Bukamon does have strings attached. Betamon, no strings attached, just straight up jamming. It's somewhat baffling that they decided to limit this when they knew this was then coming. It's like weird, but or other, obviously the Japan meta is ahead of us and stuff like that. But I suppose this always gives you guaranteed jamming, whereas this is less guaranteed. You can't search it; it's not a guaranteed thing. But we've got a lot more jamming on the horizon. We've got a searchable jamming card in the BT16 Gaogamon, who I'll flash up on screen. That's going to give jamming to the deck. Also, the EX6 Biomon as well is also coming to us soon. So soon we're going to have a just shed load of jamming available to us, which this deck will massively enjoy. Next up, going into the champions, we've got 4 copies of the EX4 Gaogamon. He returns a level 3 Digimon when digivolving. Doesn't really come up as much because obviously you're kind of hiding the raising a lot, but he does have the great effect of sharing it with his kind of Gaomon counterpart of when an effect adds a card to your opponent's hand, gain 1 memory. Really helps with swinging the turn back to yourself and just giving yourself more memory to do more. It's a great card. Absolutely love it. Next up, we've got 4 copies, sorry, of the BT13 Gaogamon. So this one lets you play out a Thomas from your hand without paying the cost if you don't have one in play. It's very common kind of champion effect that we've seen a lot recently. Also has an all turns effect as while your opponent has 8 or more cards in their hand, this Digimon gets 1000 DP. So it helps if you don't have the jamming available, giving yourself more DP to make sure you can beat things over, which is very much a theme with a later card we've got as well. It is all turns, so if you do have blocker, it's also important then. And although we have the ability to give ourselves blocker, obviously our main goal is OTK, so we just want that kind of DP boost in case we don't have the jamming. Next up, our last champion is 1 copy of Lanamon. Lanamon is essentially just our alternative win condition. She's searchable by our more generic cards in the deck. Not by the Gaomon, obviously, but just digivolve her on top of a tamer. You can get your last cheeky swing in if you've not managed to get those with your main tools for your kind of win. Also can give jamming to itself as well by placing a blue level 3 Digimon from your hand as its bottom Digivolution card, which can, if this can survive, can also be a good way of making sure you can get a Betamon underneath as well. So bear that in mind. She's not the thing that you're going to be aiming for. She's kind of your backup plan. I know I've seen some Gaomon players even playing Blitz Omni, which is something you could do as a backup option. I personally don't, because I think it's more important to have our level 7 searchable, but it's something you can try. Obviously, we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit talking about level 7s. But next up, we've got... Apologies. There you go. 4 copies of BT11 MirageGaogamon. So this is where I talked about having that blocker available to you. So we gain the blocker, and then we gain 2000 DP for every 4 cards in the opponent's hand, which, depending on the game state, can make you absolutely massive to the point where you don't need the jamming. Also has the inheritable effect of when an effect adds cards to your opponent's hand, unsuspend this Digimon, which is incredibly important. The moment a card gets added to your hands, you can just be like, there you go, I'm back on the offensive. So I'm running it at 4. I have very much toyed with the idea of playing with the BT13 one, the one which can't be blocked. I haven't personally tested it yet because it's somewhere in my bulk. I didn't like it very much in the BT13 kind of format, or the BT14 format. So that's why I've kind of stuck with 4 copies of this one. But I may give it another go, especially now we've got so many more kind of jamming things available to us and stuff like that are coming on the horizon. Next up, the limited MirageGaogamon from EX4. When digivolving, return one of your opponent's level 4 or lower Digimon to its owner's hand. then the more importantly, you've got that when attacking, inheritable. If your opponent has 8 or more cards in their hand, unsuspend this Digimon. Just incredibly important for the strategy. Was a crying shame when this got limited. You know, I could see why. This is the only deck that benefited from it. You know, and yeah, I think it was justified. It hurt, but it's justified. I think I've kind of discussed this before. I would love to see Bandai start doing semi-limits instead of just full-on limits, so that cards like this you can at least run at 2. Just my opinion. Let me know in the comments if you agree. Next up, our other level 5. 3 copies of Zudomon Ace. Still arguably the best ace card in the game. Certainly the best ace card in the level 5 slot. On play, when Digivolving, trash any 2 Digivolution cards from your opponent's hand, then return one of your opponent's Digimon with no Digivolution cards to the hand. So just can remove pretty much anything so long as they've got no Digivolution cards, which is incredibly strong against certain decks. Like you play this against, say, Fanglong, for example. Oh, hey, did you play a level 5? And now you've got your level 6 on it, and now you've got your Fanglong. Oh, no. Anyway, they're saying that Fanglong can get around that with its... Ignore me, I'm talking BS. But it's great against the ace cards. Oh, it's been a long week, guys. But anyways, next up, going to the Megas, the best card in the whole deck, in my opinion. 4 copies of the BT11 MirageGaogamon. This card is cracked. It's so good. Especially seeing it came from BT11. And at the time it was like, yeah, it's all right. You know, but now it's you know, it's literally gone from being, yeah, it's all right, to full-on GOAT status, in my opinion, for this deck. Like, returns a Digimon from level 5 or lower Digimon to the owner's hand. And then if no Digimon was returned by this effect, your opponent adds the top card of their security stack to their hand. You know, so just gets a free check, essentially, if you don't return a level 5 or lower. And then when an effect is added to your opponent's hand via an effect, you then gain memory for every 4 cards in your opponent's hand. And that's all turns. So if they do a searching effect, give me my memory. If you bounce something, give me memory. It's just phenomenal. That's such a cool card. You know, absolutely adore the BT11 MirageGaogamon. And honestly, if they were ever going to hit MirageGaogamon again, it would kill the deck. You could hit this. And that's me being honest. I would not want them to do that, trust me. But it's me being honest. If you wanted to kill this deck off entirely, it'd be that. But I think we're not at the point yet where this deck is so broken that you have to do that. Right. Then our last level 6 is 1 copy of the BT13 MirageGaogamon, disrespecting it entirely by dropping it there. Has evade. Doesn't come up all that often, but it does have evade. When Digivolving, you return one of your opponent's tamers to the hand, which is something that comes up. You know, tamer removal is always a pretty good idea. And then when an effect adds a card to your opponent's hand, you may play 1 Thomas from your hand without paying the cost. So just another way of getting another Thomas out, helps remove tamers, another way of kind of gaining memory off of, you know, with your inheritable effects. You know, yeah, just a great card. Then going into our true boss monster is 3 copies of our one and only level 7 MirageGaogamon Burst Mode. You want to be seeing this guy as much as possible, which is why we run him at 3. I don't usually go that heavy on level 7s for my personal taste, but for this deck, I think it really works. You return one of your opponent's Digimon to the hand. Then, separate sentence, gain 1 memory for every 4 cards in your opponent's hand. So, essentially, this, unlike its BT11 kind of precursor, it returns something, but it doesn't have to return something to gain that memory. It's kind of busted, frankly, as a level 7 should be. Then, when attacking, not once per turn, by the way, if your opponent has 9 or more cards in their hand, by choosing cards in your opponent's hand without looking and returning them to the bottom of the deck, you then unsuspend this Digimon. So you once they've got 8 cards remaining in their hands, unsuspend, do the whole thing again, and you have ways of being able to kind of add stuff to their hand on the turn that you're being offensive. It does cost 5 to go into on top of a level 6, but you can also burst Digivolve by returning a Thomas to the hand. And the fact is, you have so much memory at that point when you're going into this guy that you can just burst mode, you know, go into that, return your Thomas to hand, then just immediately hard play the Thomas again. It does not matter. Yeah, great card, and this is the card that finishes games off. Once you've digivolved into this, there's no going back for your opponent. Unless they've got a massive security bomb, you know, they are screwed. And that is part of the high risk, high reward of this deck. If they've got security effects, you know, a cheeky Gaia Force, a cheeky Hades Force, you know, something like that, you can be up shit creek. But most of the time, you're okay. Next up, 3 copies of the BT4 Thomas. I actually used to play this guy at 4, but I decided to play some more generic option cards instead. So on play, just draw 1. Great. Adds a card to your hand. Main effect, if your opponent has 8 or more cards in their hand, you may suspend this tamer to unsuspend one of your Digimon with Gao in its name. So this one really helps with keeping your OTK going and just going ham on the opponent, just really going for it. I actually do really like this Thomas. I used to very much prefer it to the next Thomas we're going to talk to. But I'm now kind of seeing how having them balanced at 3 copies each really works. Speaking of, 3 copies of our BT13 Thomas. So this one is a memory setter, which obviously is great, really helps you with kind of making sure you've got enough memory to start doing your shenanigans. Then your turn effect, when one of your Digimon with Gaomon or Gaogamon in its name attacks while suspending this tamer, both players draw a card from their deck. So that's what I mean when I say you can add cards to your opponent's hand whilst you're attacking. So you attack him with this, do its when attacking effect to bring them down to 8, trigger this to do with the when attacking, add another card to their hand, you know, then you're set back up again. They've got 9 cards in hand. You can then swing again. Just really, really cool. You know, and obviously can be played out for free by the BT13 Gaogamon and the BT13 MirageGaogamon. Next up, options. We've got 4 copies of Mental Training. Need I say more? Training cards are training cards. They are probably some of the best cards in the game just because of how generic they are, how brilliant they are in terms of what they do. You know, they are absolutely fantastic in terms of searching, helping you go into your Digimons cheaper and everything there. Also, I know we're quite deep into the video, but apologies if there is glare on my cards. I am currently filming in my makeshift studio, aka my garage. So I've had to kind of improvise with the lighting somewhat. But next up, we're going to go 2 copies of Blue Memory Boost. Helps again with searching out your Digimon. Obviously, unlike Mental Training, it can't add tamers, it can't add options, but it can give you memory as the delay. Also helps you dig further than Mental Training can. So if you're looking for a very specific Digimon, this can sometimes be the better option to kind of hard play and go for that kind of searching effect. Next up in the options, we've got 2 copies of Full Moon Meteor Impact. This is just Cocytus Breath, but better. Return one of your opponent's Digimon to the hand, then gain 1 memory for every 4 cards in your opponent's hand. So potentially, this card, although it costs 8, can cost you a lot less, depending on how much is in their hand. Security effect also is just return one of your opponent's Digimon to the hand. You don't gain memory off the security effect, that would be stupid. But yeah, great removal tool. And then the last card we've got in the deck, just for stalling purposes, is Ice Wall. So, you know, main, all of your opponent's Digimon gain, when attacking, lose 2 memory until the end of their next turn. So that is a lingering effect that will keep kind of going. You know, it also gains 2 memory if it's in security. Regionals, I remember this card, in 2 separate matches came up in security, and I hated it. I really hated it. And all my opponents will now too as well. But that is the deck, guys. If you want some kind of tech options, you could have a look at playing Nikolai in the Tamer slot. Helps you give jamming, but obviously you can't play this out for free. You could also look at playing the other Gaomon with the both players draw 1 card. Helps kind of stacking more of the cards in your opponent's hand. You could also look at Sorai, for example. That's another great stalling option to kind of make sure you're getting your OTK off. But let me know what you think, guys, about this Gauga deck. I'm going to be playing it on Sunday, and it'll be the Sunday before this video actually comes out. So wish me luck in the that doesn't bear thinking. I can't think that hard. I hope you liked the video, guys. Let me know what you think about the deck. And we'll see you all next time. But until then, keep it digital.